Your mind will only say or do whatever you believe. So it's very important to understand that you have to reprogram your mind. You have to, since we are born up until we die, we're constantly programming our mind.
Hello everyone, this is Shantanu and we are here because we sense the urgency of healing, growth and change. Our goal with this company and podcast is to bring you tools and inspiration so we together can create a flourishing world both inwardly and outwardly for ourselves and generations to come. Today we have with us a mindset and behavior coach, a NLP practitioner, a cognitive behavior therapist, a mental health warrior, Zuhaib Khan. Zuhaib is extremely passionate about men's mental health and working really hard to raise awareness and to help men create a better version of themselves. It's really a wonderful conversation, so hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, it's me and Zuhaib Khan on men's mental health. Hello sir, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Shantanu, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really admire the work you are doing for men's mental health, and I was really fascinated while looking into you. You did recently another podcast. I listened to that also, and it was really fascinating. So I was wondering, let's start from your origin story and the experiences you faced during your mental health issues. I think it's kind of, it will contextualize whatever we are gonna talk today. So let's dive straight into that.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I think most of the South Asian men will somehow relate and resonate with my story because I'm originally from Pakistan. I grew up in Kuwait. Now I'm living in London. While I was growing up, it was not like an average childhood. I was constantly reminded that I'm a boy and, I have to act and be and sound in a different way. There was not criticism, but there was always this extra pressure. I brought up in a very masculine society. So the way we dress, the way we walk, the way we talk, it's all constantly reminded us. So for me, it began from the very beginning of my childhood. So I have not discussed this and mentioned this in any of my previous podcasts, but I was a victim of, I didn't say victim, I think victim is a very wrong word. I was a warrior of sexual abuse. So I was sexually abused from the age of 8 until the age of 13, with obviously throughout the time and with different by men, and that had a lot of impact on my mental health. But because I was living in a society, I was living in a culture where boys are meant to be strong, they're meant to be the man of the family, and they are not allowed to show their emotions. So I had a lot of stuff going on inside me without even me recognizing them or knowing them. So fast forward, I moved into London when I was 19. I was going a lot of issues, but I was kind of not paying attention to them. So, my eating habits, I was very irritatable. I was not a good diet. These are the basic signs of someone having any mental health issues. Fast forward again, few years, I showed signs of depression. Again, I did not pay attention to that because for me, as we were discussing, for me, mental illness is equivalent to being mentally ill. So, when somebody talked to me, God knows how many years ago, that, depression was hardly talked about at that time. Depression was it was a very alien subject. It's still in many parts of the world. I had a lot of issues because of my abuse and because of all the issues I was going I had issues with having friends. I didn't have friends. I had issues trusting people. I developed, I became a people pleaser. So, everybody and anyone who was close to me, I wanted to please them and keep them close to me, whether it's my family or there's a friend or two, whichever I had. My relationships, I was, if you put me in a company of like 5-6 men or guys, I would be very uncomfortable in that sort of company and in sort of environment. But these were the signs that I never paid attention to. So, I just kept off, like, as they say, kept brushing under the carpet sort of thing. I got married. Fast forward again, I got married when I was in my late 20s. I got married, and it was a very different experience, because in our culture, in our society, we are never trained, to how to live a married life, or if, what does it entail, to be married. You look up to your surrounding, your brothers, your siblings, and you see that this is how a married life's going to be. So, or you look up to your parents, you look at how your parents were living as a couple, and then basically you just try to copy it. And this is how majority of the population lives. This is what, they all copy of what they see from their siblings or from their parents. Right. But I was here from the age of 19, and I think I got married when I was 28, 29. So I was living on my own for a big chunk of my, adulthood. And I didn't know how my dad passed away when I was very young. So I never had a collection of how a married couple should be or how a husband should be. And we had issues. Our first year was terrible. At least for my wife, it was terrible. I had anger issues. I was unable to trust her. I was unable to, to open up and share with her. So, all these baggage I carried with me unknowingly. If I would have known that I had to work on myself before I'm getting in a committed relationship, then I would have had. But unfortunately, these things are never educated in the school. These things are never talked about openly in public, especially in South Asian community, which is very unfortunate. And first year was terrible. And then I think within the end of first year, beginning of the second year of my marriage, I said, I think it's the time where I should go and seek some medical help, because whatever is happening, it doesn't seem right. I consulted a doctor, and doctor diagnosed me with depression. Now, depression runs in my family from a maternal side. So that's something I was, not in terms of the word depression, but in terms of the symptoms and what happens and the extremes of depression. So I was vaguely aware. But again, depression is not something, it's a very alien subject as we talk about. So I was diagnosed with depression, and then the doctor prescribed me antidepressants. And I was a bit reluctant to go on antidepressants because of the side effects. And, I thought, maybe let me try to work on myself first with self-help and see if that's going to work. Otherwise, I discussed with my doctor that, we should go on either therapy or let's see if the antidepressants work. End of second year, I had my first child. And that was really the time when I said, no, I have to do something. I don't want her to give her the life that I experienced, and that's the time when I start looking into self-development, coaching, CBT and NLP sort of thing. That helps me to become a better person, above all, being a better father or better husband and a better friend. While doing the courses, I found out a lot about myself. I found out a lot about me as a person and the things I did and why I did them. And hence I'm a men's coach, and I work predominantly with men, because I sincerely feel that up until today's society, and
Yeah.
again, living in the West is no different. It's men's mental health is the least talked about topic. Depression in men.
Yes. Actually,
These are the yeah.
prior to listening to you, when you said I work with men, men's mental health, I didn't even thought about mental health separately for women and men. That like I never thought I contemplated a lot about mental health. How should we take care of our mental health and all? But I never saw it separately. So maybe we can get a little into that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so like your physical health, you have your mental health.
Yeah.
Okay, and then again, it's how a male and a female would have their physical health issues. Then it's a similar thing that they have mental health issues. But unfortunately, with men, the support system they have and the pressure they have around us, it makes us less vulnerable and makes us less vulnerable to be open to talk and discuss. So let me just give you an example. It's a stats which is recorded cases only. So you can imagine what's the case is going to be now, because I'll give you my example. So for example, my sexual abuse, I have never ever spoken to anyone up until I was the age of 27, 29. So you can imagine how many cases there are still like me. So 4 in 1 men at some point in their life has gone through some kind of abuse. So that's the stats. And these are the stats that are reported. If we talk about suicides, it says that 16.8 deaths reported in every 100,000 deaths are committed by male. 75% of reported suicides are by men.
75%. I was
75.
It really surprises
75%. Yes, and it's a very scary, surprising stat that continued for quite a number of years up until today. And this is the stats that I quoted, is 2019, 2018. So it's not something very long ago.
What differentiates men and women when it comes to mental health?
Apart from the physical symptoms, there are different physical symptoms, like generalized one: overeating, oversleeping, or less eating or less sleeping, affecting their sexual life, or general physical aspect. There's a lot of emotional symptoms that somebody can look into, but again, it's different from person to person. Now, for men, for most of us, we have these expectations from the society, expectations from the culture, for us being men alone. So for example, before a child is born, even before it's born, especially in certain cultures and certain community, we're going to have a boy, there is the pressure there. My boy will take my name forward. So that's your pressure already, even before you are in this world. When you're born, things started getting attached. So for example, Pretty Pink is only for girls. Blues are for boys. Dinosaurs are for boys. Truck are for boys. If it's something to do with cars, then it's for boys. That's a pressure. A lot of these things may not seem as harmful at the beginning, but for some people it can be very harmful. So let's say if you are a boy and you like pink color, but in your surroundings you keep on being told that pink is for girls, so even though you're drawn to that pink color, you are a bit reluctant to openly talk about that pink color. And I'm just using it as a metaphor.
Or else I'll get bullied.
Or you get bullied, or you get slapped from your parents, or you get looks from your parents, or you're gonna get people will make fun of you that you're a guy and you're wearing a pink. So these are extra pressures when we start putting on ourselves. Things like men are expected to be strong, men are expected to show lack of emotion, boys don't cry, sort of thing. Being
Yes.
dominant, having control or achieving control. Or in some countries, in some culture, it's like you have to be the breadwinner of the household, and that's one very common fact. Now, sometimes these views are directly pushed onto us, and sometimes these views we pick up from our surroundings, from our society, from our school culture, friends, family, from movies. And it happens from very young age. So just imagine you have a boy, he's growing up, and again, going back to the pink example, he wants to wear a pink t-shirt, and it still happens. And I have friends who have boys, and they still do the same thing, that if he wants a pink t-shirt, they would tell him, like, sorry, you can't have pink because pink is for girls. You're a boy, you need to have a blue. It
still happens here also, I can relate.
And I'm talking about West here. I'm talking about in this Western world. It still happens. It's these things while you're growing up. These things, basically, what you're conditioning your mind that I need to suppress what I really want, what I really am inside, in order to be someone what society and other wants me to be.
Yeah.
And that's where it all starts. It all starts. In order to keep someone happy, I'm gonna let go of how I'm feeling from inside, or because I have these extra responsibilities, because I'm the man of the society, or because I'm supposed to be the strong one, so I can't cry out in public, or I can't let my emotions out, or let's say in my case, I realized that, in all fairness, when in regards to my abuse, I did not actually realize that I was actually abused up until the age of 2021, when I actually came to UK, and when I started studying, and when I become more aware that this what has happened to me. But it took me a very long time to not even to apprehend and to understand what I have gone through, but just to open up, and what consequences those abuse had on me. That's a different story.
If someone who's listening to us and he can relate a lot to your story, I want to go back to your story. As you said that you went through all that and symptoms started to pop up, and it took over a decade, I think. It took over a decade for you to process all that. So what was that journey of healing like?
Journey of healing been I'm not going to say roller coaster. It can be roller coaster for some people, because first of all, if you are a victim of abuse, you need to understand that you are not a victim. Okay, it was not your fault, because for a very long time, and this is with in the most cases of sexual abuse, that I call them warriors, the victims and the warriors, they live in that phase where they think it was their fault. It was their fault. They must have done, said, or did something that led to that abuse. So they need to understand that it was not your fault. Or
I wanna really emphasize that you are not a victim, you are a warrior, right?
Yeah, because if you compare yourself to, you're fighting a war. You are a warrior because you're fighting an external war, and then you're fighting a war which is your internal war. So victim, I think victim is a very, again, personally, it's a very negative word, and people live in that victim personality, in victim mentality for a long time. Oh, something happened to me, that's why I am like this. And if you are living in that kind of mentality, or because I was sexually abused, I'm going to behave this in a certain way, then I will never ever be able to progress or become a better person. So that's why I keep on saying,
we try to fit in that socially constructed conception of being a man. Similar with victim, we try to fit in that what a victim should do, how a victim should act.
Exactly. So I will be in a victim mentality if I said, oh, because I was sexually abused, I am always afraid of other guys, or I am afraid to make a friend. And that's how, because see, your mind will only say or do whatever you believe. So it's very important to understand that you have to reprogram your mind. You have to, since we are born up until we die, we constantly programming our mind. So, we grow up, we look at our surroundings, we pick up things. Same, the mentality, what we're discussing now, that men meant to be strong. We pick up on these ideas, then we act on these ideas, and we become whatever people expect us to be. So if people expect me to, for men to, not to show their emotions and be very strong for the family and not to cry, I will tell myself that, I can't cry, and eventually I will not cry. But you need to understand your emotions. At the end of the day, it's an energy. It's an energy in motion. Okay.
Yeah.
Everything around us is energy. So we are basically nothing but energies. So one, you need to understand, if you're not letting out that emotion, that energy, somehow it will burst, it will pop out, like how you open a soda bottle.
Yeah, we tend to think that by repressing our emotions, they're gonna go away.
They will not go away.
Yeah, I think that's not how it works.
So, no, of course not. Because think of anger issues. So my anger issues, what I had, and in certain part of the culture and society, it is labeled that men can only show emotion through anger, and female can only show through anger through crying. If I say, "Oh, you're crying like a girl," stop crying like a girl, or so, and in certain part of the world, anger, a man is being angry is considered to be his masculine trait. He's a very angry man. It's considered to be as a positive trait, but I'm sorry. So anger issues, porn addiction, sex addiction, drugs, and all the health issues, they all come when you are suppressing your emotions. So everyone, whoever's going through some kind of mental health issues, I'm not saying mental illness, I'm saying mental health issues, they will somehow show us one of these signs.
Yeah.
But what as men we try to do, we try to suppress them, and we think it's going to auto fix. It's just going to go away.
I think a lot of aggressive behavior is because of suppression. Because beneath anger, as I have observed, is always pain. There is some kind of unprocessed pain, and if you are being aggressive a lot and it's causing someone or you yourself a lot of problem, if you go back and process those suppressed emotions, oftentimes that aggression goes away.
There is, again, it depends on what kind of aggression and anger we're talking about. Obviously, there's some sort of that you may need to seek a professional help. But there's so many things that you can do to yourself. For example, I luckily, I never went for a therapy. Like, I never had a long-term therapist, or I had a few sessions with a life coach. I had a few sessions with a psychologist, but I never went for a therapy. I kind of like went through a lot of books, and that helped me and gave me a tips. So first and very important, it's very important that you actually recognize that
acknowledgement is the big one.
Acknowledgement is the key, and it's the first thing. So there's no point if I tell you, Shantanu, I think you have anger issues, because if you say, yeah, okay, so what? It's me. I'm not gonna accept. If I'm not gonna accept it, I will not do anything.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many times people will come and tell me, or how many times anybody will come and tell me to do something about it. I will not do it unless I recognize and acknowledge it. So, and especially with men. So, again, I'm just going to show one more stats. It says about 76% people, when they conducted the survey, and they said about 76% of men population who had some kind of issues, they basically pretended that everything is fine, and they are no longer in, I mean, they are not even ready. They don't even recognize that need some kind of help. Now just imagine 76 is a very big population.
Yes.
There's a lot of things, again, some things attached with men. It's stereotyping, a lot of societal pressure on men where they want to be. So there's a lot of things that men not only put on themselves from the society, but also for just the fear. For example, if I go and tell even my best friend that I have this kind of issues, what is he going to think of me, that I'm a less of a man?
So there is there is that the societal conception of being a man, and then what's the reality, like how to find your real self?
How to find your real self is a very
because since childhood I've been conditioned by society, and I don't even know that I'm conditioned because it happened so earlier in my life,
in your childhood. So you just basically uncondition yourself. You just basically reprogram yourself, and simple as that. All the answers are within. You the way you are is the answer. All you need to do is reprogram your mind and be true to yourself. So if I like pink, damn, I like pink. I don't care about what other people will think. If I want to cry, I will cry, because that's how I'm letting go my emotions. I would rather cry in front of my wife rather than I become aggressive or have an anger outburst. So you have the solutions within you. All you have to do is just to recognize and appreciate and understand that. It's as simple. Society, your friends, your culture will not make you. Only you can make yourself the true self you are. And it's that simple. It is that simple. And I'm not saying it's an easy way. It's for some people it can take a very long time, but it's not impossible. There are so many things you can do. There's so many things you can you can work on yourself. You can read through, life coaching is something, you can get a coach. Again,
and you are an example of that. You have done that, right?
Thank you. And I think this is the reason why I'm into men's coaching, because if I can do it myself, because especially if you are like, when I was a father, when I became father for the first time, again, in our culture, society, we don't get training. We don't get to, nobody tells us that these are the pros and cons of becoming a dad, or what will you go through mentally, because just imagine all the attention goes to the baby and goes to the mother. Nobody talks about father. Nobody talks about what is that person as a father is going through or will go through when his wife is going through postpartum depression. Nobody talks about his mental health.
Never heard anybody talking about that.
Exactly, because he's not going to get sleep. His life is changed. His relationship is changed with his wife. You have this little person who is not used to, but nobody talks about these things. No, and these are the things that people need to, nobody's talking. And these are the things which I picked up, that I joined a lot of father support groups, and then realized that I am not the only one. And me being from a very humble background, if I have gone through this, then people who have gone through worst and they need help. So maybe where am I now in my journey, there are people who are down there who are basically looking for that help, and they are starting their journey. So, and hence I am doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. And talking of parenting, I heard you say that you will raise a boy and a girl in a similar fashion.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because most of my listeners are Indian, and here in India we don't do that. We raise them differently. And like, you are a boy, you should do this, and you are a girl, you should do this. And a lot of turmoil in society is because of that parenting.
Of course, and I think it comes down to
Yeah.
parenting. So now I have two daughters. Okay, so I've got two girls.
Yeah.
And I don't raise them any different than if I would have had a boy. My girls, they wear dresses, but they also wear t-shirts, they also wear hoodies. You know, I
They
my
can also
my
like
my
blue.
That's one thing. My older daughter, she so we were talking. Obviously, she goes to school, so she picked up from the school. So
Yeah.
one day she came to me and she said, "Oh, what is your favorite color, Baba?" So she calls me Baba. I said, "Like, it's pink." And she's like, "Why it's pink? You are a boy. You should like blue." And I said, "Like who? Says who?" And
Yes.
then again, because I'm reprogramming her mind from now, that day she was telling me something and she said like, "Oh, I want a blue dress, daddy, because I like blue." So I want my child, whichever gender, I don't want them to attach a certain trait to certain gender. It's very wrong, because let's say you have a son
Yeah.
who likes dancing. Okay, let's say ballet dancing. Okay, ballet is considered to be a female, sort of attached with a female. But if they say, "No, daddy, I want to become a ballet dancer," and if I say, "No, you're a boy, you can't do that," I'm basically killing his personality. I'm killing what he enjoys the most. And I think that's what it is. And I'm not saying in India, but also in any South Asian culture, or, it's the mentality: you are a boy, you cannot cook. Cooking is for girls. Let them cook. I cook food. One day I give my wife rest. I tell her, "This is your rest day. I'll cook meal for everyone." And I enjoy it. And it's a very wrong thing that boys are treated and raised in a certain way, and then girls are raised and treated in a certain way. Yes, they are different, but they are different in their physiology. They are different in physiology, and I'm not denying that fact that they are different in physiology. But at the end of the day, we all are made up of emotions. We all are made up of energy, and energy does not define I'm a male. I'm a masculine energy and I'm a feminine energy. But if you have emotions, let's say.
Yeah. And some might be more emotional, some might be less emotional, but it has nothing to do with gender, right?
Exactly. I have seen some really strong, kick-ass women in my life who are very emotionally strong, but then they have, again, it's a different topic, but they are high on their masculine side. They are high on their masculine energy. But everybody is different. Everybody is different. So I think it's the time right now where we start teaching our coming generation to be more aware of the fact, that even I'm a guy and I'm having issues, it's not a sign of a weakness. Because this is another thing that I said to myself over and over again, that I'm a recently married guy, and if I tell my wife that my doctor has diagnosed me with depression, what was she's going to think, that I'm a less of a man, or what kind of a man I am? I mean, these are fear of being labeled that we put on ourselves. 90% of the times the fear is we are a creation of our own fear, and we label it on ourselves. It has nothing to do with reality,
and you have to, if you want to grow, you have to be vulnerable sometime.
Vulnerability is a super strength. It's my superpower.
Same.
I don't think that I will even think a second of being vulnerable. I think I have been vulnerable on this podcast. I've ever been on any podcast. I've never talked about I've never discussed my sexual abuse in other podcasts. I've discussed it on the Clubhouse, but I've never discussed it on the podcast. But that is part of me. That is what has made me me.
That's what makes you a warrior.
Exactly. I'm not ashamed of it, because it was not my fault. But I am vulnerable about it when I talk about it, because when I remember I only discussed with my wife 2020, so about last year. And that moment was my most vulnerable moment in my life, because I've known my wife for 14 years. I've been
Yeah.
married for 8 years. So she knows me inside out. And this part of my life, which I have not mentioned to anyone, being in that moment where I have to be like the most vulnerable, there was all sort of fear, what she's going to think of me as a father, as a husband, as a friend. All these fear was there, but that was the most vulnerable moment I can live. And I live that moment. I can live anything. I can be vulnerable anywhere. But that's my superpower. But again, that moment was the most liberating moment for me in my life. Yes. Because I conquered that moment, I believe that I can conquer
anything. Yeah.
And a majority of the population, we live in the dilemma that if I become vulnerable, what opinion others will make of me. Hence, they decided never ever to be open up, never ever to be vulnerable, never ever to talk about
issues. And they live their whole life in their comfort zone.
They live their whole life in the comfort zone. They live their whole life in the fear of being judged or what people have to think about, or what people is making opinion about them. So it's very unfortunate.
I think there's a great deal of strength in being vulnerable. Saying to someone like, this is who I am and this is who I used to be, take it or leave it, and you become a different kind of person by doing that. What I am doing with this podcast only, it's the last thing on the planet I want to do, that I want to come on a camera and show up and talk about issues which are mostly people are scared of talking about. So, but
we are only scared about because we have made an opinion about that particular topic already. If I'm discussing mental health, maybe they're talking about mental illness. I'm in that stage in my life where I actually, sorry, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast or not, but actually I don't give a shit about, I actually don't give a shit about what people think of me. There was a phase in my life where, pandemic, everything was locked, and, my hair is all, I'm not in shape. And I was very, I was very reluctant to go on a podcast or record myself or make videos or whatever. And then I worked on it because, sometimes you have to work on it. You have to sit down with that feeling. You have to work on it.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, if I'm happy with the way I'm looking at myself in the mirror, then actually I don't really care about what other people will think. At the end of the day, it's their perception of what I am. And actually, I am the only one who know who I am and what's my worth. So why wasting my energy on thinking of what others will think of me? So I literally stop giving shit about what people thinks of you and do the things what really matters and what makes you happy.
Yeah. If I have to conclude, then it starts with acknowledgement. And after acknowledging, you start to uncondition yourself and you accept yourself fully. So you don't give a fuck about what anyone thinks of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No one has right to give a fuck about you other than yourself. And you need to truly love yourself before you start loving anyone else. Because if you are not loving yourself, you are not being honest with yourself. There's a very famous quote which I like to share. It's by Gandhi. I don't know exact word to word, but it goes something along the line that watch your thoughts, because your thoughts becomes your words becomes your actions, and your actions becomes your destiny and your character. It's something along those lines. But I love that because that explains the whole of CBT in one phrase. It's all about your actions. It's all about, and your actions your reality is depending on your actions depending on your thought. So if you think negatively about yourself, you will become negative.
Yeah. And you reminded me of one quote from Gandhi as well. And it's what you did here. He said, speak your truth even if your voice shakes. So I think it's a very profound quote. And you said you are a reader as well. So what are few books you have recommended a lot to people, or maybe you have gifted a lot, and why?
Um, at the moment, I'm reading Jay Shetty's book,
Think Like a Monk.
Think Like a Monk. I'm very bad with writer's name and title, but Rich Dad Poor Dad, I've read. I would recommend that book. There's a great book, Think, Grow Rich, something like that. I'm really bad at the
Think and
names.
Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, right?
Yes. So I've read that. I read a lot of books, but I read a lot of what do you call it? Articles, blogs, vlogs.
Yeah, I think their blogs are very underrated these days.
Definitely. And I'm a very I'm more an audio. I'm a very auditory person, so I like to listen a lot. So it depends. If I'm driving, I would put on a Clubhouse and I would listen to someone there, or I would put on a YouTube video and I listen to that. But there's a lot of people I like to follow. Obviously, Jay Shetty is one of them. There is again, I'm bad with names. There's a guy called Lewis. I follow him. There is Bob Proctor that I follow him. And there's a lot of other people that actually, see, for me, anything that gives me positivity and positive vibe, I am, even if it's anyone, I will read, I will look into it, and I will anything that's going to help me as a person. But right now, I am working towards my spiritual healing, and I'm working on spirituality, and I found a concept which is very alien to me. It's called lucid dreaming. So
I used to do that when I was in school.
Is it? Wow. I'm I've been looking into it. I'm reading these days. I'm reading Jay Shetty, and I'm reading about lucid dreaming. So so that's what I'm doing. But it doesn't have to be that you have to read something, anything that makes you, puts you in a positive aspect or a perspective of life. That's the key part. You keep on reading. If it's self-help, Google is our best friend these days. You put on a best top 10 books on self-help, you will get a list. No one is bad. No one is. It's just something you need to see if you resonate with that thing, and it gives you the positivity.
Yes, that's the most important thing. I think every person will have his own set of books which he'll resonate, and he should read that rather than reading what we are reading.
No, of course. I mean, you don't have to read what I'm reading. You maybe resonate with a different person. Maybe some people after this podcast will say, what, this guy is talking shit. But if they don't resonate me, that makes sense to them. And it's the same thing, read, but at least keep your mind open, read things, don't be the prisoner of your own mind, because your mind is not you. Your circumstances is not you. People around you is not you. You are far more greater and far more powerful than you ever think and ever imagine.
Whoa. Awesome, man. Tell them where they can find you.
They can find me on Instagram, which is I am Zuhaib Khan. They can find me on Facebook, which is again Zuhaib Khan, and they can on my business page, which is I'm Zuhaib Khan as well. So yeah, I'm here for people who, especially for guys, who wants to come out of their mental prison, which we 90% of the time, which we build ourselves. And I am very passionate about breaking this taboo, where I can genuinely help men to be, not to suffer in silence, and be the true version of themselves, and really enjoy what they enjoy, and not to live according to someone else's expectations, and just be on your own and be happy.
Well said. And I'll link all that in the description box.
Thank you.
And
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for giving us your time. And it was really a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Shantanu. It was nice having you and having me being on your podcast. And I hope I make a difference in at least one person's life, because especially message for guys that listen, being vulnerable is not a sign of a weakness. I think it's the greatest it's the greatest sign of being super strong. And a message for your female audience, that if a guy is in a situation where he's being vulnerable in that moment, don't expect him to be the stone for you. Don't expect him to be the rock hard foundation or solid for you, because that's his weak moment. So appreciate him, understand him, and give him all the comfort and support he needs without making an opinion. So that's my tip.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I was going to ask you about what message you will give to the women, but due to lack of time, maybe someday we'll do a separate podcast for women only.
Anytime.